Oh, look. There he goes.
I'm gonna get you. I'm gonna get you. I'm gonna get you.
Is that a...
It's a
yeah,
guillotine.
It's a guillotine. Yeah. Didn't know they were French.
Do you honestly think you're
Could you be any louder? You really trying to trap yourself, dude?
I had never noticed it before. I was wondering if it would go off if you stepped on it.
Slide. I know the problem with this video.
Same.
It's right there. It's right there. You know. Never swim in this Australian river. I mean...
The title should be Never Swim in Any Australian River.
Never swim in Australia.
Yeah, never swim in Australia.
Even, like, I would say in a pool or in a bathtub, potentially. That's really the only places you can. Dude.
Pools still wouldn't be safe if they're outdoor.
Maybe.
Not 100%.
Maybe, I don't know, but... Heck, dude, it's even dangerous to try and open your car door in Australia because there are spiders that will literally crawl up into the under part of your door handle and will just stay there.
Yeah.
Because
Incredibly
reasons.
Venomous spiders.
Very, very venomous. It's fucking dangerous, dude.
So that's why you need a Bowie knife if you're going to be in Australia, because you need to take your Bowie knife up under your car door handle before you open it every time.
Yes. Either that or like a really, really strong can of bug spray.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. There's things that...
If it'd be me, I'd always have like the WD-40 clip that like Hank has on his belt, but like with something flammable, you know? If WD-40 is not flammable.
I'd have mace.
And then like...
I would have mace.
My lighter, and then like when I go to open my car door, it's just like... up under the handle before I go to open it.
Fair. For me, it'd
that
be...
way any spider in there is just like...
For me, it'd be a can of mace. Because, you know, you spray that on anything and it's just gonna... It's gonna just be like... And, you know, doing that, and it's just like, aha, they'll teach you to get under my door handle. Now allow me to get into my car from the other side because I'm not touching my door handle that's covered in mace.
Yeah, that's true. That's the problem as well.
Yeah, that's... So, Australia has some crazy stuff. And honestly, I don't really know where to begin.
Just had a mental image of just like, oh, big ass spider under my door handle. And I was like, psh, that'll teach you, little bastard. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's why again I would immediately go through a car wash. I would be like, all right, time to go through a car wash. And then I'd just look at the, like, if they had those guys on the outside who like did like a soaping of your car on the outside, be like, don't touch the door handle over here. Do what? Don't touch the door handle over here. It's covered in mace. Why is it covered in mace?
Spider.
Understandable. Oh, sorry, we're in Australia. It's just like, why's your car door covered in bloody mace, bro?
Fucking spider, mate.
Ah, that's understandable. Right. So, you want the regular wash, or do you want the wash with the wax? It's like, I'll take the wax wash. It's like, right, bro. See you on the other side. Yeah.
Give it the wax.
Yeah. Gosh. So, we're going to go ahead and watch this Mr. Ballin video. Never swim in this Australian river. Let's just go ahead and go. Here we go.
Today's story is about a real-life nightmare that occurred on a thin stretch of black water in northern Australia. This particular story has inspired two fairly popular horror movies from 2007. They are Blackwater and Rogue. But before we get into today's story, if you're a fan of the strange, dark, and mysterious
I've heard of Blackwater
story format, then you
that's
come to the right
Jennifer
place because
Connelly
that's all we do, and we upload 1 or 2 times every week. So if that's of interest to you, the next time the like button asks for a snack, offer to get them one, and then proceed to heat up a cup of noodles in the microwave for about 77 minutes, and then serve it to them in a flimsy paper cup. Also, please subscribe to our channel and turn on all notifications so you don't miss any of our weekly uploads. All right, let's get into today's story.
Yeah. Okay. God dang it, now they got me thinking about Jennifer Connelly. God, I used to love that woman.
At 11:40 a.m. on December 21st, 2003, three young men who were longtime childhood friends hopped in a truck and began traveling south. They were 22-year-old Brett Mann and 19-year-olds Sean Blowers and Ashley McGuff. They lived in a coastal city called Darwin, which is actually the capital of the Northern Territory in Australia. The Northern Territory, also known as the Top End, is located in the central north of the continent.
And you look at this country right here. Habitable, 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 habitable. Completely just dire circumstances. No chance in hell of ever surviving without
there's a freaking
living
road
underground.
that goes straight down through
Exactly. That scares the shit
the
out of me.
highway. Yeah.
Yeah. Imagine driving from Darwin all the way down to Port Augusta or Adelaide and just like...
I think sane people probably turn east at Tennant Creek.
Yeah.
Take the long way around.
Yeah, well, yeah. Either that or it's just like, actually, I got a better idea. Let me hop in a boat and...
No, I don't want to be in a boat in a fucking ocean like in Australia because I know what's in the fucking ocean in Australia.
Okay, cruise ship. A cruise ship. No chance in hell of you ever being near the water.
Unless it sinks like the Titanic.
Which has a less chance of happening than you being in a car crash or in a plane crash.
Well, they said God couldn't sink the Titanic and it still sank.
Yeah, and also the person who said that was a fucking moron and died on the Titanic.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, dude, I would say like I would trust a cruise ship or a plane over a car any day. Just my thinking on it.
It is 6 times larger than the UK, but has 280 times less people living in it. Specifically, the UK is home to roughly 70 million people, whereas the Top End is home to only 250,000 people, and half of them live in Darwin. There are many reasons why the Top End is so underpopulated, ranging from politics to poor infrastructure, but the most obvious reason that so few people choose to live in this part of Australia is because it is wildly rugged and dangerous. It is scorchingly hot year-round, and the weather in general is just unbelievably unpredictable and violent. And, as the old saying goes, all the animals there are trying to kill you and each other. But Brett, Sean, and Ashley had grown up in Darwin, and so they were accustomed to the hazards of living in the Top End, and so they weren't really concerned about them.
Brown snake
What
he
they were
showed
concerned
is
with was
one of the
finding things
top
to do
venomous
and not getting
snakes in the
bored
world.
in the city.
Yes.
That
It's not the
particular day,
top,
in
it's
order
one of
to
the top.
ward off boredom, the trio had decided they would head out to a salt flat that was located about 50 miles to the southwest of Darwin. It was this wide open plain that they could just race around on their quad bikes on. And so they loaded these quad bikes into their trailer, attached it to their truck, they hopped in their truck, and at 11:40 a.m., they started heading south out of Darwin. The first road they were on was this fairly desolate dirt road that wound around through the wilderness, and it passed by the iconic eucalyptus trees that are very well known in Australia. It passed by palm trees and giant...
Yeah, the eucalyptus trees. I could just see a koala at the top of one of those things. Be like, you just like driving by, see one, be like, "G'day, mate." Koala just stares at you, passing by, and it's just like, it's like
The koala's just like,
yeah, yeah. The koala just looks at you. He's just like, yeah, get your ass out the car. I'm gonna eat your fucking face. Also, fuck you.
Termite mounds.
Derpy
And after
little
driving
dudes that'll
on this
kill you.
dirt road for about 30 minutes. The trio passed by the Tumbling Waters Holiday Park, which
Tumbling
is a
Waters
vacation
Holiday
resort
Park.
for adventurous families. And then beyond
Enjoy
this
your stay,
park,
bro.
there really was no more civilization. They were headed right into the outback of Australia, and so this was kind of like the last mark of civilization. And so the trio, they drive for another 30 minutes past the park, and at some point, all of the trees on either side of the road start getting more and more more dense until they begin kind of encroaching over the road, as if it looks like you're driving directly through the heart of a jungle. And they would have recognized this change in scenery as meaning they were nearing the Finniss River, which was off to their right beyond all of the trees. So they couldn't see it, but they knew they were close. And the Finniss River was not a huge waterway. It was a 30-mile stretch that ran east to west through the top end. And what it was known for was being very brackish and dark. You could not see into this water more than maybe an inch or two. So it almost appeared black. And so
It's the name of that one movie, I guess.
Yeah, Dark Water.
Black Water or whatever.
Yeah.
Whichever it's called.
I would say, okay, the whole deal with this is just, like, I'd see that river, and I would immediately just be like, yeah, I'm not going anywhere near that. As a matter of fact, I'm staying on the road here, and I'm going to the salt flats, and I'm having a good time, and then I'm going the frick home. Like, because this is Australia. Everything's trying to kill you here. You're also in one of the more harsh territories of Australia.
Like,
so,
if I was gonna swim in any kind of natural body of water in Australia, it would have to be perfectly clear where I could see in all directions for a good distance, because I know what kind of things lurk around Australian waters, and crocodiles happens to be one of them.
You got yourself a croc there, bro.
Venomous snakes happens to be one of them.
Also, I'm sorry for my Australian accent. For any Australians out there who hears my accent, one of my favorite YouTubers before he was a Fortnite YouTuber. It's actually when I almost kind of stopped watching him. Lannon. I heard him describe. He's just like, yeah, there's all sorts of accents in Australia. There's Boganese, which don't really want to get into what that is. It's just, and there's like, and then of course there's the educated accents and the uneducated accents. It's like, well, which one are you? It's like, I'm pretty uneducated, bro. Not gonna lie. It's just, he was also playing. I remember those games he was playing with Achievement Hunter. He also was playing with Etika, and oh, dude, that sucks. So it sucks remembering, Etika before his mental illness really claimed his life and everything.
Yeah, I was actually watching one of my newer favorite YouTubers the other day that actually brought him up, and how he used to love watching his streams. For like an example, one of his videos of the sensation you get upon finishing a really long game.
Yes.
So he said that Etika did Xenogears?
Xenoblade, maybe?
Xenoblade, yeah, Xenoblade Chronicles. And obviously that's a really long JRPG, and he was like, you could see like the look of like realization as it hit him when he finished that stream in that game finally, like, oh my god, it's over,
Yeah. And
so I finally did it after all this time.
Yeah. And also Mr. Ballin kind of looks like Lannon in some ways. Just imagine Mr. Ballin, but speaking in an Aussie accent. He's just like, so there's this big fucking river, and in the middle of this big fucking river is a bunch of black water. Now that black water, you don't want to fucking go near it, bro. Just sorry. I love Lannon, even though his Fortnite stuff really annoyed me though.
Continue driving along through this kind of jungle atmosphere until the left side of the road began to thin out again, and then it eventually revealed the salt flats up to their left. And so at that point, the trio pulled off on the right side of the road where the vegetation was still very thick. And then the trio hopped out of the truck, they went around to their trailer, they dropped the gate, and one by one they pulled their quad bikes off, and then each of them hopped on and drove out onto the flats. That day, the flats were actually very muddy because it had recently rained really, really heavy in that area, and so the trio spent just as much time racing each other on the flats as they did trying to drive close to each other and spray mud on each other. And so for hours they were out there having a great time.
Accurate.
And then at 4:30 p.m.
back in the holler, we used to do that all the time.
And so they drove back over to the truck, they drove their quad bikes up onto the trailer, they locked it, and then they were about to get into the truck to head back home when one of them suggested, hey, let's head down to the water and rinse our clothes off and get all this mud off of us. Now, you need to understand, in the top end, the place you want to spend the least amount of time in is the water. People in the top end assume that in any natural water body that is not clearly designated as a swimming area has at least one animal animal lurking in it that will kill you.
Yes.
This is a literal precaution
Venomous sea snake.
people in the top end take. And so this section of the Finniss River that these three friends were thinking about going and jumping into and washing off inside of, this was not a clearly designated swimming area, and so it should be avoided.
Here's the thing, being young and stupid, I've done some stupid things. I gotta be honest, I did some dumb stuff that probably should have killed me. I probably shouldn't be here right now because of how stupid I was whenever I was younger. I really hope that if I ever have kids, I raise them to be smart enough to not do dumb shit like this. It's like, oh, you're muddy. Okay, drive home muddy. You can clean your truck up later. Like, that's very simple. Like, if you're living in Australia and you've lived in Australia your whole life, and you know, do not go in natural water because you will fucking die. I mean, God.
But you need to remember, these three guys, they grew up in the top end. They were used to living in this kind of wild area, and they'd also come to the salt flats so many times over the years, and they had jumped into the Finniss River before to wash off and go swimming, and nothing had
Only
ever
takes
happened.
one.
And so really,
Only
the
takes
idea
one
that
time.
the Finniss River could be dangerous to them, it didn't really cross their mind. They felt like, you know what, we've been there, done that, nothing's going to happen to us. And so they left the truck and walked away from the salt flats into this mangrove forest that's only a couple of feet off the road and began walking towards this river. Normally, the trip from the road through the forest to the river bank, basically where the forest ended and you reach the river, it would take about 10 minutes. But after walking in this mangrove for maybe a minute, they were already standing in river water. It was only a couple of inches of this water, but it signaled to the guys that clearly the river is very swollen from all of the recent rains, enough so that it overflowed beyond its natural boundaries, and it's flooded the mangrove forest. But the three guys, they look at each other and think, meh, what's the big deal? I'm sure we'll be fine. And so the guys continued moving on, but as the mangroves began to thin out, they began to slow down dramatically because the riverbanks on the edges of the Finniss River were very, very steep. If you were standing on dry land, if there was no flooding, and you were right
It's
on
like
the
if it
edge,
was me and my friends and I lived in Australia and my friend was just like, oh, sure, it'll be fine, mate. I'd just be like, mate.
Yeah, mate.
Did you forget we're in fucking Australia?
Like, bro, we're in Australia. Not only
We're in
that,
fucking Australia,
we're in the
man.
bloody top end, bro. Like, turn the fuck around and get the fuck back on the road. We're going home right now.
Like, there's a fucking 80% chance it fucking won't be fine unless
Yeah,
we...
it's like, yeah, it's just like, but bro, I don't want to get me bloody truck ready. It's just like, bro, I will personally clean your fucking truck. Just get back in the fucking truck and we're going home, bro.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly.
the Finniss River, if you took even 1 or 2 steps into the river, you would slip down under the water and the water would be over your head. Now, as these guys are walking, because the ground is flooded with this black, brackish water, they couldn't see the ground, and so they couldn't tell where the drop-off into the river was. And so they began to slow down, and then when all the trees were practically gone, they knew they were close, and then one of them actually slipped and kind of tumbled down the edge for a second, but he turned and he grabbed one of the roots of the mangrove tree and pulled himself back up. And then the other two, after seeing this, they walked over and stood next to him, and the trio just stood there looking out at this pitch black looking river that was very clearly moving faster than normal because of all this excess rain. But
gosh, the anxiety, dude.
Yeah.
The anxiety's getting to me because I've been pulled under in an undertow. I've been pulled under, and I remember where I was and everything, and it's one of those moments where I should have died. It's one of those moments, 100%, I should have died. It was this river in the holler back where my family settled and everything, and I stepped in knowing full well that the rain coming down from the hilltop was completely just like overwhelming the riverbed and everything. And I thought, oh, I've crossed this creek bed, time and time again. I know where like the deep spots are and all that. I know. One time I went under and I don't know how deep it was, but I just remember slipping under and then my shoulder hitting like a tree root and like hit and hurting my shoulder really, really bad. And I just remember my cousin Matt, who I say God bless about him every day, even though he's kind of fallen off. He reached down and grabbed me by my shirt and pulled me back to the edge of he saw me where I was, and he basically pulled me back to the edge, and he's like, you all right? You all right? I'm like, I don't know what happened. We both went back up to Mama and Papa's house, and Mama, gave me a towel, and I dried off and everything, and then I told my mom about it. My mom basically just started flipping out, just like, you could have died if Matt wasn't there, and this and that. I was just like, again, I could have, but thankfully I didn't. It's, yeah, man. Shit gets me, dude. Because you don't have to be this stupid. And I know that people in real life can be this stupid. I know that it's just...
Well, some people learn lessons just the hard way. And some people don't get the chance to learn that lesson.
And some pay the ultimate price and don't get to learn from those mistakes. And I think that's what we're about to get here.
Yeah.
Each other and thought, you know what, it's not that big of a deal. We'll hold on to the roots of these mangroves and lower ourselves over the embankment. We'll wash ourselves off, pull ourselves back up. No big deal. And so they each turned around and grabbed a root of one of the many mangrove trees that marked the edge of this forest, and while holding on, they would lower their lower half down past the embankment until they were submerged. They rubbed all the mud off of themselves, being very careful not to let go of the mangrove at any point. And then as they were about to finish up and pull themselves back up and get back to their truck, Brett loses his balance and somehow lets go of the mangrove root and slips down the steep embankment, and suddenly the current takes him away from his friends and out to the middle of this river, and before long he's getting pulled downstream. And so he yells out to Ashley and Sean, who had their backs turned to him. They turn around, they see their friend, and they instinctively leap into the river to try to go get him and help swim him back to the side. Now, all three of them were very competent swimmers, and so this was not a high panic situation. This was more like a inconvenience and maybe a little bit funny, and so that's why they leapt in no problem. They figured, worst case scenario is we'll drift somewhere down there and we'll get out and we'll walk our way back to our car. But as soon as Sean and Ashley were free floating in this river, they felt how strong this current was.
Yeah.
And it was way stronger than they were anticipating, and so they actually started to get a little bit worried, and they looked up ahead of them, and Brett, who had been in the water for 10 or 15 seconds before they leapt in, he had already moved way farther downstream than them. And so they decided, you know what, we have to get out, but we need to get to Brett first. We all need to get out at the same place. And so they decide they're going to swim downstream, meet up with Brett, and then get the heck out of that river as fast as they possibly can. And so they yell out to Brett, hey, we're coming to get you, and they start swimming as fast as they possibly can, and with the help of the current, they manage to get all the way up to Brett relatively quickly, maybe a couple of minutes. And when they reach him, Sean and Ashley go in front of Brett, and then the three of them, they stop actively swimming, and they allow the current to just kind of carry them downstream. And as they're drifting, they begin scouting the left side of the river for a solid clump of mangrove trees they can swim into, because unless there's something to grab onto on the edge of this river, they can't pull themselves out. And so at this point, the trio is definitely uncomfortable being in the water because of how strong that current is, but they're confident they're going to find a viable landing spot and they're going to get out of here, and it will be a great story. And so Sean is in the front, Ashley is right behind him, and then Brett is behind Ashley. And they're all about an arm's length away from each other. And they're drifting down this river for a couple of minutes. They're looking on the left side for a viable landing spot, and then all of a sudden, Ashley just yells out, hey, I see something in the water. We need to get out. Find the nearest tree. Get out, get out, get out. And so Sean, he starts panicking. He doesn't even turn around to see what's going on behind him. Adrenaline kicks in, and he swims as fast as he possibly can to a tree that's popped out of the river. It's literally growing in the middle of the river, and so he swims up to this tree.
By the way, correction, I thought he said dark water, and that's that got me thinking about Jennifer Connelly. This is the movie Blackwater. As soon as like I remembered, like, wait a second, Blackwater. No, I remember that being a different film, and I didn't have a chance to say anything. So yeah, not the movie Darkwater with Jennifer Connelly, instead the movie Blackwater. So yeah, just to clarify on that.
Tree, he manages
Also,
to
those
climb
don't
up
look
to
like
the
three
first
dudes.
fork.
They probably changed it to women because women are more relatable protagonists in horror movies.
I guess.
No, that's always the thing. Like in horror films, it's always a woman, and the woman always survives. And that's why movies like Get Out, for me, are so great, is because the protagonist is a complete opposite of that. And not only does it end okay, but the ending is actually has a bit of a tongue-in-cheek sort of thing at the end. I don't want to give it away, but there's stuff that happens at the end, and it's just like, oh shit, please don't let this be what it is. And the ending is completely not what you expect. And I'm glad.
Of the tree, which is maybe 6 or 8 feet above the water, and as soon as he's up there, he turns around and looks down, and he sees Ashley. He reaches down and he hoists Ashley up to the first fork with him, and then the pair turn around again to grab Brett, but Brett's not there. And so they look around, they're thinking, okay, did Brett not make it to the tree? Did the current pull him around? Is he at some other tree? You know, they're yelling out for him, they're looking for him, but there's no Brett. And so they're talking to each other, Ashley and Sean. They're saying, hey, did he call out? Did you hear something? Did he give some indication about where he was going? And they're saying, no, I don't know where he is. And so they start climbing up the tree a little bit and trying to look down and up the river to see if maybe they can see him. And then all of a sudden, Sean notices something yellow flash beneath them in the water. And so he looks straight down and he sees this yellow thing down there. And so he nudges Ashley and he says, look. And so Ashley looks down, and as they're looking, they're about 10 feet off the water at this point. They see this yellow thing start rising up to the surface. Now, the water is so dark, they really can't tell what anything is unless it is at the surface. And so they're watching this yellow thing, and suddenly it comes out of the water, and they see it's Brett. He's got his yellow jacket on. That's what they saw. And Brett is in the mouth of a 13-foot-long saltwater crocodile.
Yep.
Oh, man.
He's dead.
Either he's dead or something's going to happen and he's going to get out.
They're going to have to deal some damage to that thing quick to get it to let him go before it death rolls him if it hasn't already.
Oh, yeah. If it's death rolled him, he's probably got some broken limbs.
Yeah, I have a feeling it probably grabbed a hold of him and took him underwater and death rolled him a few times before it came back to the surface.
Either that or he's fighting it and he's getting his way back up to the surface.
And his left side is being held in this animal's mouth, and he's not moving. And so Sean and Ashley are so scared, they're just frozen. They're just staring at this monster that's in the water, that's holding their friend underwater, and they can't do anything about it. And for 2 minutes, they just stand there looking at this animal, wondering what's going to happen. And for those entire 2 minutes, the crocodile stared right back up at Ashley and Sean, as if it was showing them what it was going to do to them once they got in the water. That I've done this to your friend, I'm getting you to as well. And so they're staring at this animal when suddenly it just kind of goes underneath the water, back down into the black abyss, and it, along with Brett, just disappear. Ashley and Sean are so terrified that they can't even grieve for their friend. They can't feel sad for him. It's like they just go into survival mode. And without saying anything to each other, they just start climbing up this tree as fast and as far as they possibly can. And they only manage to get up maybe a couple more feet to 2 more branches. One's at about 10 or 12 feet off the water, and the other is at about 15 feet off the water. And so Sean makes it onto the lower branch, and then Ashley makes it onto the slightly higher branch. And then once they're situated on their branch and one arm is firmly wrapped around the trunk of the tree, they're able to kind of breathe for a second and take stock of their situation. And even though, of course, the elephant in the room here is that their friend was just eaten by a crocodile, but it's like they can't process that yet. Instead, they start talking about, okay, well, our families, they're going to recognize...
That's the thing, because whenever you're in a high adrenaline situation, your mind blocks out things that will potentially like drag your mood down, and like, because survival mode's weird. I've heard people talk about it, and they say it's like going into autopilot, and thus nothing bothers them outside of their survival instincts to make it out alive. I've heard people talk about that. I've never had that myself. But
just brings my brain back to that Alien 3 scene. I told you I had to look up again the other day.
Fuck!
Like, grabs the chair and just like,
fuck! I can just imagine a scene like that in this. Like, all of a sudden, they just see Brett, like, instead it's like an asshole park warden who's, like, been giving them shit all day, and then the thing comes out the water, just, like, death rolls him and then drags him under. All of a sudden, the boys are just, like, one of them standing there with a bar or something, or, like, a big fucking stick.
Tree branch.
And he's just, and they're just like, fuck! I could just see that. I want to do a tribute scene to that now in a movie, in one of the movies that we make.
Yeah.
Just like all of a sudden something really bad happens. Like, I don't know, the monster comes into the room and grabs one of the bad guys and drags them out, him screaming the whole time, and then you just hear, like, his neck get snapped and get dragged away. And the other two are in the room just like, in the corner just like, fuck. Such good shit.
They're going to tell the police, and the police are going to launch a search, and they're going to come find us. Both of them were confident, or they acted confident, that that was going to happen, but they also knew that there was no timeline for this. It could be hours or days until this actually happened. And so as these two teens are sitting on their branches, the reality of their situation really started to come crashing down on them. Because, yeah, they're safe in this tree, but how long can they possibly stay in this tree for? I mean, eventually, they're going to need to fall asleep. And if they fall asleep, are they going to fall out of the tree and land in the water with this crocodile? I mean, they just didn't know how this was going to turn out. And so as the two began comforting each other, you know, reassuring each other that, oh, no, it's going to be just fine. Someone's going to find us tonight or tomorrow. We'll be just fine. As they're doing that, Ashley suddenly stops talking to Sean and just looks straight down. And so Sean realizes what Ashley's doing, and he matches his gaze. And he looks straight down, and at the base of their tree, in that black water, is the 13-foot-long saltwater crocodile. It's back, and it no longer has Brett in its mouth. They have no idea where Brett is. He's just gone.
Yeah.
Saltwater crocodiles are considered the most aggressive and dangerous crocodiles in the world.
Yes.
And they are one of only 2 crocodile species that will actively hunt humans when given a chance. And so these two teens are helpless in this tree. All they have is some separation from the black water and this animal down below. And so they just find themselves staring straight down at this crocodile. And in turn, this crocodile just stares right back up at them. It's very clearly waiting for them. It wants them to come out of the tree so it can eat them. And so the crocodile just continuously repositions itself all around the tree. It's just keeping the top of its head out of the water so its eyes can look up at them. And so the teens are just praying that at some point it will grow tired of them and will leave. And after several hours, right as the sun is about to set, this crocodile does seem to give up on them, and it drifts under the water and disappears. After a couple of minutes, Sean, who was on the slightly lower branch, decides he doesn't want to be any closer to the water than he needs to be, and he's going to climb up to Ashley's branch.
Bad idea.
So he very carefully stands up on his branch to make sure he's got solid footing, and then he reaches up and he grabs a branch with his right hand, and he kind of tests it, and he feels like it's pretty sturdy, and then he puts all his weight on it and tries to reach for another branch when this one breaks. And as soon as that branch broke, Sean tumbled 10 feet into the water. And so he hits the water, he goes all the way under, he sinks a few feet under, and immediately he's turned around and he's trying to swim as fast as he can to the surface, and he's just expecting at any moment this crocodile is going to bite him. He gets to the surface and he looks around. It's a little bit dark, but he can immediately see his tree, and he realizes the current has pulled him away from his tree. And so in a panic, he starts swimming and kicking his legs as hard as he possibly can to get back to this tree. And he knows the whole time he's kicking his legs, he's just attracting the attention of this crocodile.
I was going to say, panicking whenever there's a predator around is a great way to get its attention.
Yeah, any cavitation in the water is just going to just signal them like, hey, Prey's nearby. Time to eat.
He's got no other tree he can reasonably get to that will provide safety from this animal. And so with every ounce of energy he's got, he kicks and swims, and finally he manages to grab a root of this tree that his friend is still inside of, and he begins pulling himself with his lower half still submerged in the water. And so as he's dragging himself towards the trunk of this tree, he's just waiting for this crocodile to bite down on his legs, and finally he gets to the trunk of the tree and he's able to pull his body out of the water, and he clambers up to that original branch he was on, and then he and Ashley work to get him up to Ashley's branch. And as soon as he sits down next to Ashley and he's secure, they both look down, and just a little ways away from the tree, basically in the area where Sean had just landed in the water, they see with the little light that is left, this crocodile swimming right back over to the tree, and it camps out right underneath. Sean had gotten out just in time. When the sun finally did set about 10 or 15 minutes later, it became pitch black. There's no ambient light in this part of the world. There aren't any buildings or cities close enough to this area, and so it is truly pitch black. And so they
said it before, and I'll say it again. You think you know darkness, you don't know darkness until you're like new moon in the middle of the woods kind of dark. New moon, middle of the woods, away from civilization, nothing around, that's dark. That is true darkness. It's one of the most terrifying...
Darkness comes.
Yes.
May the rats eat your eyes.
Oh, Jesus.
could no longer see the crocodile down below. But they knew it was there because periodically they would hear it repositioning itself right underneath them. Also, because it was so dark, the two teens could not actually see each other. And so they began holding on to each other, and then anytime either of them moved, they would announce their movement to the other, just so they knew they had not fallen asleep and were not falling out of the tree.
I'm grabbing a rope. I'm grabbing a rope. This is actually something, it's a trick to keep yourself from falling asleep and falling out of the tree. Like,
do they have rope?
If I had, but I'm looking for, if I'd look for anything I could. Like, I would take my shirt off and I would tie, I'd like make a length of like my shirt into a rope, and I would tie myself to the base branch of the tree that I'm sitting in, because you know, if you all of a sudden you start to fall over, your equilibrium will wake you up. And because that falling motion, but if it doesn't happen fast enough, you're gonna lose your balance out of the tree and you're gonna fall in. That's actually a trick that they teach people who are hiding up in trees. Tie a rope around your waist or your legs to ensure that if you fall, you're going to be caught by the rope.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I would do if I were them. I'd do anything I could to fashion something like that.
Hours went by like this, where it was silence with the exception of the sounds of this crocodile repositioning itself periodically. A little after midnight, a huge storm rolled into this area, and it began absolutely downpouring, and the raindrops that were hitting the river were so loud that the teens could no longer hear the sound of this crocodile, and so they had no idea if it was still down below them or not. But every time lightning would strike, it would illuminate the sky for that flash of a second, and in that flash, they would look down, and there would be the crocodile. After several hours of this super intense downpour, the two teens also started to become concerned that all this additional rain could raise the water level of the river all the way up high enough that this crocodile might be able to jump out and reach their legs.
Yep,
but
could
because
suck.
it was so dark, they couldn't actually see the top of the water, and so they had no way of knowing if the water levels were actually rising or not. And so they both kind of sucked their legs up onto this branch and tried to make themselves as small as they could while still remaining anchored to each other and also to the branch. And that's how they sat for the next several hours, just hoping they would survive the night. Finally, when the sun came up that following morning, the teens immediately noticed that the crocodile was still right below them, just lurking at the base of the tree waiting for them. And they also noticed the water level of the river had clearly come up quite a bit. And so if they weren't rescued soon, there was a good chance that another heavy rainstorm that crocodile would be in range of them, and there was nowhere they could go. They were as high up as they could get. Not to mention the fact they were hypothermic, they were weak, they were tired, and if you fall asleep, you're going to fall in the water. And so the two teens, they knew they did not have much time left. Luckily, at 10 a.m. that morning, they heard the sound of a police officer who was out in the mangrove forest. It turned out their families had recognized their absence. They had called the police, and that morning a search had been launched. They had found their truck and then had been walking down the river yelling out to them, and then they finally did find them. Initially, when they located these two teens stuck in the tree, they called in a helicopter to hover over them and lower down a ladder that could climb back up. But when the helicopter got close to this tree, the rotor wash from the spinning blades, it practically blew the boys out of the tree, and this crocodile was still in the water. The rescuers could see it, the boys could still see it, and so there was this fear that the helicopter would literally send them into the water to their death. And so they had to abandon the helicopter approach. However, the blades of that helicopter did ultimately scare this crocodile, and the crocodile swam away. And so as soon as the helicopter was off station, they had a boat come in, and the boat got right underneath the two boys. They jumped down into it, and they were brought to safety. The two boys were brought to a hospital where doctors determined they were physically okay, but both of them were severely traumatized from what they had just been through. As for Brett, despite an exhaustive search of that river, they never found his body or any of his clothing or any belongings he had on him, and they never found the crocodile that killed him. So that's going to do it, guys. Damn. If you found the secret in today's episode, let us know in the comments section what it is and where you found it, so give us the timestamp. And if you're the first to do that, we'll pin you at the top of the comments section. If you got something out of today's episode and you haven't done this already, the next time the like button asks for a snack, offer to give them one, and proceed to heat up a cup o' noodles in the microwave for about 77 minutes, and then serve it to them in a flimsy paper cup. Also, please subscribe to our channel and turn on all notifications so you don't miss any of our weekly 1 or 2 video uploads. We are now selling merchandise like flannels and hats and sweatshirts and all sorts of stuff. If you're interested, go to shopmrballin.com. If you want to learn about upcoming deals and promotions for our shop, go to our shop's Instagram page. The username is shopmrballin. If you want to get in touch with me, you can direct message me on Instagram or on Twitter. My username is the same for both platforms. It's just Mr. Ballin. I also have a ton of content over on TikTok where my username is also Mr. Ballin. We have a second YouTube channel just called Mr. Ballin Shorts, where we post random short videos and lost episodes. We also have a Facebook page just called Mr. Ballin, where we post condensed versions of the longer episodes you see on YouTube. If you have a story suggestion, please submit it to our subreddit just called Mr. Ballin. It's linked in the description below. So whether I see you on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Reddit, YouTube, Facebook, or some combination, just know that I really appreciate your support. And until next time, that's going to do it. See ya.
All right.
That is an unfortunate story for sure.
Yes.
So rest in peace to the guy who got to feed a crocodile for the day.
Yeah. So let's see. There's the Wikipedia. So Australian horror film. Let's see. Pregnant woman along with her boyfriend and her sister take a boat in the mangrove swamp, and they're terrorized by a ferocious saltwater croc. Sequel, Blackwater Abyss. Ooh. So they made another one, but I don't know if it's deep in the forest, remote cave system, floodwaters, a large killer croc. So yeah. Reviews were less...
Generally less than glowing. That must have been shitty.
Must have been. Yeah, so an 80% on that.
At least it wasn't a shark. Saltwater crocs are still probably maybe the second most scary thing with a lot of teeth I can think of, though.
Yeah. True story of... inspired by the true story of the croc attack in Northern Territory in December 2003. So it was December 2003, so... Yeah, pretty... It's almost 20 years ago now. Damn.
That is 20 years ago now.
Well, no.
Well, technically at the end of this year, yeah.
Yeah, it will be at the end of this year. Still, that's pretty scary. A nightmare scenario like that, boys, this had all been solved if you'd have just drove back and then cleaned your truck up later. I mean, that's really all I can say. Look.
Yeah, I'm sure both those guys really wish they had done that now, though.
Yeah, and I know this is all me saying this, and hindsight's always 20/20. Hindsight is all, and I'm sure even here they are 20 years later, they still wonder where they would be right now if they wouldn't have done that stuff. If they would have done that shit, if they would have just gotten in their truck and just went home. Where would they be right now? That's something that I haven't.
Like, there's some people that believe that when it's your time to go, the universe is going to take you out one way or another. So,
I guess
the guy could have gotten his truck, started his drive home, and then got fucking kicked in the face through his driver's side window by a kangaroo or some shit. Who knows,
Well, Nick, at any point, a meteor could crash through the roof of this house and kill both of us.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying there's some people that believe that, like, if you were to cheat death one way, you just die another way,
Yeah, and to those people, I would say stop watching Final Destination movies. The fifth one was the best one, and that's all there is to it. I also like the first three. The fourth one sucks.
I think part of the circumstantial evidence as to why some people believe that is just the crazy ass fucking, 1 in a million ways that some people have actually died.
No, I know, and it's just like the dude that got struck by lightning all those times, that park ranger from Pound, Virginia, near my hometown, and it's just like, dude, he got shocked so many times by lightning that apparently he went crazy, and then he offed himself.
Dude, after the second time, I'm going to start figuring out scientifically what I can do to prevent that from ever being possible again.
Yeah.
It's like, if I wear, really, really rubber boots, really thick rubber boots, would that ground me to the point where I couldn't be struck by lightning?
Don't know.
I gotta figure something out. Carry around a backpack with a lightning rod on it that would absorb the charge,
Yeah. Oh, of course. Yeah, I'd say Thor. Sorry, these stupid YouTube polls keep popping up every now and again, and I'm just like, I might as well vote in it. But yeah, I couldn't imagine being in a scenario where a friend of mine didn't make it.
Especially if you saw them get taken out by some sort of beast.
Oh yeah,
right in front of you.
Yeah, it'd be in this area. That would be, I would say.
Well, the unfortunate thing in this area is it's probably a bear.
That's what it. Yeah.
And you ain't climbing a tree to get away from a bear.
No, no.
So if there is a bear that wants to eat 3 people here, it's gonna eat 3 people.
Either that, or it's gonna eat one person, and the other 2 are gonna get away. It's like, possible. I wonder how those 2 got away. They were faster.
Yeah.
It's like, because you don't have to be, you don't have to outrun the bear. You just have to outrun your friends. I hate to say it, but that's the truth.
Yeah, it's like if me, you, and Chad run into a bear, I'm pretty sure you and Chad will get away.
No, I think I'd probably go out.
I don't think so because of your leg span on me, and because of my asthma.
Potentially. But there's also a movie that came out called Beast. It has Idris Elba in it, and it's about him and his daughters and his best friend fighting off a lion, a man-eater lion that's gone rogue and has started killing villages of people.
Yeah.
And I would very much like to see that. Although I've heard some people say it suffers from horror movie intelligence. As in, there are characters in it who are just fucking dumb.
Just making 30 IQ decisions.
Oh yeah. More like negative 15 level IQ, where it's just it makes no sense why they do what they do. For instance, I was just how dumb are we talking here? It's like, oh, the killer chases them into the house, and their immediate thought is to run upstairs.
It's like basically that person has 2 brain cells. One was working on their heart and one was working on their lungs, and that's all they had to work with. So
Yes.
that kind of decision making.
Yes. Yeah, it's like, why run upstairs to trap yourself? Why? Makes no sense. That's always a trope that whenever I see that in a horror film, I'm just like, there you go.
Oh, no,
There's the stupidity.
No, the way you excuse it is if somebody runs up the stairs and then you see why they ran up the stairs was they went to their room and got a
Get a
fucking
shotgun.
gun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then they turn around and cock the gun, and you're like, I see why they did that.
No,
and then if
no,
they
you
still
see-
get fucked up when they're holding the gun, that's scary.
Yeah. So for me, like if a serial killer busted in the door over there, and we immediately ran upstairs.
Oh yeah, like if they come in this way, that's the way we're going, obviously. Because
Yeah.
that's
how
not
we're getting away
stupid
from
for
it.
us. There's multiple exits and guns up there. So.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. There is my shotgun, my rifle, my pistol, and Cathan's various weapons. I don't want to give away the kind of weapons he has. And then, of course,
I'm pretty sure they're all legal. But yeah.
They are. No,
He's got a bunch of stuff.
He does not have anything illegal. It's just I don't want to give away the kind of firearms that he has, just in case he wants to maintain his privacy.
In case
Me,
anybody
I don't
watching
give a
this
shit.
videos thinking about breaking into our house, and you'll be surprised at what you get shot by.
Yeah. Not only that, but
You want to keep it a surprise. No spoilers for the
we
criminals.
also need to get you a gun because we talked about that one getting you that one pistol. That's
So far, if
Pretty
someone
cheap.
breaks into my room, I have a switchblade type knife and I have a saber on the wall. So I'm gonna be tally ho, lads, with the saber.
tally ho. It's like I'ma shank you, shank. Anyway, that was a pretty scary story though. This was you do not want to swim in this Australian river again.
I don't want to swim
Don't
in any
swim in
Australian
Australia.
river.
Don't swim in a natural place in Australia. By Mr. Ballin, and if you want to see more from Mr. Ballin, click his name in the title of the video. And until next time, Nate.
I am Nick.
See you later, everybody. Peace.